Hello, and a very, very warm welcome to Legendary Leaders, the podcast. My name is Cathleen O'Sullivan, and I'm the host of this show. And together with a wide range of legendary leaders and experts in the field of self-leadership and leadership of others, we are going to explore concepts and ideas that show you how you can move past potential fears, negative self-talk, constant self-doubts, and much, much more. And all of that in order to encourage you to become a legendary leader yourself. And that with more natural impact, influence, and real genuine inspiration. We want you to be you in capital letters, to be at your best far more often, and to show up in the most authentic way that feels almost easy. So are you ready for it? Well, welcome once again to Legendary Leaders, the podcast. Welcome back. I wanted to say welcome back, dude, as you used to call me when we speak. Hi, Kyle. It's lovely to see you again.
Hey, Kathleen, man, it's good to see you as well. I have, that's been pointed out more than once that I'm a 50-year-old man that still uses the word dude, and I'll never stop. It's just who I am. And yeah, so thank you for that, dude.
My husband keeps calling everybody buddy. Hey, buddy. And he's a nearly 50-year-old, and he just enjoys it. And I find it really endearing. So Here we go.
As long as it's genuine, right? I remember one time I used the same word. I called a guy buddy. He's like, I'm not your buddy. So there's a time and a place for everything. I think the temperature was too high at that moment. But I just, I'm a Southern guy, and that's just kind of what we do is nicknames. And dude is one that I've just never escaped and don't plan to.
I interviewed somebody for the podcast a while ago, and she was all about inclusive wording, and therefore would highlight man, dude, and so on, and not to use it in a generic way. And it really stuck with me. And this episode, this conversation made me think as well, what is appropriate, right? But every time you do it and have another American, a Californian girlfriend, and she calls me names as well, so nicknames. And I just love it because it builds a closer relationship. It makes us feel friendly and connected. And I really love it. So I don't mind it at all.
It's interesting that we're on this topic because I've always been kind of a folksy person. It's like, what's up, man? Hey, dude. Regardless of how stuffy the room is, it's who I am. But I realized a few years ago that I was only saying buddy and man and dude to males. I realized this like internally. No one pointed it out to me. So, me just being me, everybody's man, everybody's buddy, everybody's dude. I mean, why shouldn't it be that way? So like if I have the staff meeting every week and I'm usually the first one in the room, and as people walk in, I'm like, what's up, dude? Give them some knuckles. What's up, man? And they just kind of expect it now. It's who I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes
equal treatment.
You. I appreciate that. Kyle, I double checked when we spoke last. Wait, maybe not last because we had to catch up in between. But when we recorded our episode, the first time you were here, it was mid of June, July 2022.
22?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Which is madness.
Holy cow. It really is, Kathleen. Time is flying. And I told you this before we pressed record, and I want to say it again because I think it's important, is you're doing really important work. And I've had it doesn't seem like almost 3 years, but I've been following along ever since we met the first time. And I was thrilled when you reached out to join you again, and I'm honored to be here. So I just so appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And I can give that right back to you because you are like this role model in the leadership space. Out there, visible, sharing important messages that people really need to hear, in particular nowadays. And, you are unapologetically you. And every time you say to me, I have an imposter and my imposter kicked in, I'm like, what? Kyle, imposter? Tell us a little bit more about your imposter.
I think, you reminded me now, we've talked about this more than a couple of times. And I think it came up when we met 3 years ago or almost 3 years ago. Look, man, there's the man again. I struggle mightily with imposter syndrome. And it's something that I've always dealt with, but I am convinced it's something that most of us, if not all of us, deal with from time to time. It's how we manifest it into being something or appearing something as something that we are or are not. So for me, rather than try to hide from it and avoid it and act like it's not a real thing, I use it as kind of a thought process to walk through. Okay, you've got some things you should be proud of, and you have accomplished some things that you may not have believed you ever could accomplish, like with my book and a few other things. But I don't necessarily look at it as a bad thing either, though, Kathleen, because I think the moment, for me personally, the moment I that paradigm shifts from a bit of you're not good enough to you've done it, or you are good enough, or you're better than you think you are. I personally would become a little less passionate and aggressive about my work. So maybe I'm coming from a place of like a chip on my shoulder, or I've got something to prove, but I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. But it is something that I wrestle with more often than I would like. But it also, I think, provides a sense of fuel, if that makes sense.
It's interesting what you're saying, because the imposter can play out for people very differently, right? Because we are all so different and have different experiences. And for you, it's fuel, and I love that. For me, it's probably fuel as well, but there's also a part of it that is humble. It humbles me. I go through it. I'm curious about you, but I go through waves, right? Waves of confidence. Everything seems to be going smooth and well, and we're out there. And then there's this, oh, not so much anymore. Oh, now we are back up there, right? Yeah. And I remember my imposter even when I'm up there and when I feel like I'm on a high, to keep me humble and to keep me grounded and to not be, complacent in this moment. And that's why I find a real use in it.
By the way, is it something that you find yourself thinking about or struggling with most days, a couple times a week? How often do you feel it come on?
It depends.
It depends on how busy you are, what's going on, what the task in front of you. Is that right?
What's going on in the world impacts me a lot. So I'm a thinker. I'm observing what's going on and try to make sense of it all. But also I work in this space quite often. So I actually support other people with their imposter and their inner critic. And it is this parallel process, as you know, as a coach, right? You work with them and you do the work yourself. Yeah, it all comes up for you as well. So therefore, I couldn't tell you the average number a week. Sometimes it's louder, sometimes it's less noisy.
It's interesting. I've got a good buddy of mine who has played he's played professional baseball at the highest of highs. Like he's won several Gold Gloves, which in the States in Major League Baseball, that's an award for the best defensive position, the best defensive player at your position. He's won it 4 times. So 4 times he was told you were the best in this role that you're in. And we talk about this a lot, imposter syndrome. And what I've learned from him, and I'm so grateful for the learning, is that there is a very fine line between cocky and confidence. And when I talk to him about his accolades and the things that he's done throughout his career, he says it in such a matter-of-fact way. And for me, it's impossible to hear it as bragging. And it's just like, read this, because I'm not making this up. I'm not embellishing. These are the facts. I'm sharing this because it's been helpful to me, and I'm sure you might take a unique or maybe a similar path with your clients. Is the help for me was, if you have a stack of proof of things that you've done, don't be shy about those, but also be humble when you discuss them. It's not, look how great I did. This is what I did. It's not like, hey, I've sold 30,000 copies of my book. Look at me. It's, man, I can't believe I've sold 30,000 copies. The number doesn't change. It's just how I approach and present it and talk about it. Yeah. So anyway, I just shared that story because when you are genuinely with someone who is literally the best at what they do, irrefutably, at least at certain points of his career, and hearing him talk about still, kind of wrestling with how to talk about it, his own accolades, and then how he landed on how he approaches those things in that conversation is incredibly inspiring to me. Yeah. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but it's been very helpful to me.
I love that part around ownership. You didn't use the word, but own your successes.
Yeah.
And as you said, without bragging. I remember when I learned that the podcast went up to the top 5%, which I know it's not the top one, but I was very proud in this moment, and I still am. It really gave me fuel. We can push this further. We have a message that's important. But I wouldn't go out there and say, we are the best. We are not yet. But, there are other great podcasts out there. But at the same time, it's like, okay, what can I learn from them? And how can we keep improving,
I saw a quote recently from, I actually don't remember who it was. And the quote goes something like, confidence doesn't come from shouting affirmations in the mirror or telling yourself how great you are or any self-help book. Confidence comes from a stack of undeniable proof that I am what I say I am. And how you manifest that and talk about it's a different conversation, but that should absolutely bleed into your level of confidence and how, not if, but how you deal with your imposter syndrome. And for me, sometimes I find myself in that situation. Am I good enough? Should I be in this room? Should I be in this podcast or be in this conversation? Hang on a second, Kyle. And then I have this mental list of things that I run through that hopefully at the end of that little mental inventory, I say, okay, you're meant to be here. Move on and shake those nerves and do what you're there to do.
Yeah. And speaking about tools and strategies that you apply, how do you manifest confidence when you don't feel quite as confident on top of what you just said?
Yeah, so I am the anti fake it till you make it guy. I really think that is a trap that so many of us fall into in many aspects of our life. I know I did throughout the first probably decade or so of my career, but I think that promotes a layer of inauthenticity, and it's hard to bond and trust someone when you don't know who they really are. So for me, I own it. I speak about it openly. I talk about it with whoever wants to listen. But when I don't have, like, for example, if I'm about to walk on stage and I'm struggling with, or I'm thinking about, should I be here? Am I the right person for this? Are they going to like this? Are they going to like me? All the questions and the self-conscious type questions we run through before we put ourselves out there like that. As woo-woo as it sounds, I close my eyes. I take a couple of deep breaths. Let the last breath go all the way out, and now I'm ready. Because at that point, there's nothing to stress about. I've done the preparation. I know the content. I know what I want to convey. I know the message I want to share. But most of all, Kathleen, it's not about me. Nothing that you or I do is really about us. Sure, it provides a sense of confidence and most of all fulfillment, which is what we're all chasing. But when I have that internal dialogue and that inventory right before walking on stage, the last thought before I go on is, what can I do for these folks? What can I do for the people to whom I'm about to speak? That's why they've paid me. That's why I'm here. And a light switch clicks and I go on stage and I'm a different person.
Yeah. And I find it incredible how you step on stage, how you present yourself, how you, meet such diverse groups as well. And yet you show up in your own real way. I know loads of people say to me, authentic is being overused. But what's a good synonym for it? For me, it's real. No. What is it?
Yeah. No. Who says it's overused? No.
Loads of people. Loads.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I think the world is largely void of authentic leaders. And that's the mission I'm on, is to rid the world of these like robots that we've all been associated with. And I was a robot for many years, and it left me apathetic and it's, but I guess the other side of that coin is it's what compels me to do what I do today, because I know there's a better way now.
And let's dive into that. I mean, yes, it was 2022, the last time we spoke for the podcast. Since then, so much has happened. When we spoke last, you introduced your bestseller, Begin With We, and we talked through the principles and explored them, and it was brilliant. But so much time has passed by since. So what has happened in your world since then? And Kyle, how have you evolved as a leader since then?
Oh, wow. So we met in, you said July of 22?
Yeah, we might have met beforehand for a few previous chats.
Yeah.
That's when we
so my book was the book wasn't even released yet.
Was it not?
Yeah, so it was a couple of months before then. And man, Kathleen, so when I released the book, when I decided to write the book, my goal was to sell 1,000 copies. And I wanted to just have a little circle of people that I could provide some help with, learn from the mistakes I've made, learn from these principles, try to make your environment just slightly better, if not wildly better. And here are the tools. And those tools are what I've used, leading tens of thousands of people in some of the biggest companies in the world. The book came out and within a week or two became a USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestseller. And I would say, with maybe a couple of exceptions, every single month since September of 22, monthly sales have eclipsed the previous month's sales. So every single month it's gone up, and now we're at something like 30,000 copies sold. And back to the very beginning of our conversation, I share the number not because I'm proud of the number. Obviously, it's I think I had a fellow recently tell me that if you have sold that many books, you're in 1/10 of 1% of all books, which is mind bending to me. So the book came out, and month over month, I find myself on more stages, bigger audiences, having more conversations like this than I ever would have imagined, and it fuels me. And there's been so many unintended byproducts of the work. One comes to mind immediately is that these principles have become more than just a workplace thing. I hear from readers all the time, especially and multiple times in speaking engagements, either during Q&A or someone will approach me afterwards and say they've read the book and the principles are having an unexpected impact on their personal lives. I had a fellow tell me it's changed how he's raising his children. So those types of things along the way have been really, really heartwarming and continue to fuel me. But I think the latest update that I would really be excited to share with you, of all people, is I'm in talks with a massive publishing house for book number 2. I was contacted just a week or two ago about what my next book might look and sound like and feel like, and what I'd be interested in receiving in advance to write the book. And that itself is mind-bending to me. And so the goal is to continue to spread the message, get on as many stages as I can. I still work with a handful of executives that I do regular coaching with, but my passion is bigger audiences, and that's the purpose of what I do basically every day now, is wake up and try to spread this message. There is a better way. You don't have to hate your job. You don't have to have the Sunday scaries so badly that we medicate. It doesn't have to be the way that it is, but it takes a choice. And I think most organizations are void of the actual roadmap, the blueprint of how to do it. And what I offer is not academic. It's not hypothetical. It's work that I've actually done in massive organizations with wild success. So with that in mind, I just keep plugging away and spreading the message as wide and far as I can.
Now, what I think I mentioned that in our first conversation for this podcast, what I truly appreciate about the principles and how you describe them with examples in your book is how tangible they are. So I have evolved in my work and as a leader as well, I would say. And one thing that has become a principle of mine is, can we just leave the jargon to the side? Can we just talk about things as they are and not overcomplicate them? Because we don't have to sound smarter. We have to help others. And that perhaps more quickly, and in a way, that the message lands. And so jargon, overcomplication, loads of buzzwords, it's for me a no-no. And every single day I'm calling myself out for doing it. And my business partner does the same. So really, we are really being honest with one another. And coming back to your book, it's so clear, it's simple, it's no rocket science, and yet it is therefore so powerful as well, because you can literally take it, explore what it means for you, your team, the organization, your personal life, as you've just highlighted, and put it into action.
Yeah. You mentioned this whole vocabulary thing, how we speak in the workplace. And I'm convinced we actually have 2 different vocabularies. Unless you go home and ask your husband or your significant other, your children, how they did on their deliverables that day, or when they ask you a question, you say, hang on, let's put that in the parking lot. I'll circle back to that.
Yeah.
Nobody talks that way. I was on a call recently with a client of mine, and he was giving me the details of speech. So I was moving, where to go, where to stay, all these things. And as he's walking through kind of like the itinerary, he said, and you should know the hotel is next to a location with lots of great eating establishments. And eating establishment. Did you ask your wife if she wants to have dinner at an eating establishment last night? So I'm so with you. The more corporate bullshit that we sling, these syllables that just are absolutely designed to make us sound smart, the less real meat and content comes through. And so we end up like our brain is just overwhelmed with trying to sound smart and insert a comment that's going to make me add value, as peers, if I'm adding value to the conversation, that we lose sight of the real problems we're trying to solve. So kudos to you and your partner, your business partner or colleague, because that is a massive goal of mine as well. Say what you mean what you say, and move on.
Yeah.
There was a second part of your question that I have based on now.
Well, you started answering it, but it was, how have you evolved as a leader?
Yeah, I am. I think I am more committed than ever to the principles. I was committed before, but I've evolved in a way now that if you don't want to subscribe to them and you don't think leadership principles are for you, okay, I know it works. I can't tell you how long it will take to work. I don't know the environment that you're in or how toxic or dysfunctional it is, but I am, without question, it's irrefutable that these principles and the framework that I've created, that it works. So my evolution over the last couple of years has gone from, okay, I've seen this work in a couple of companies and I was directly involved, hands-on with them. So maybe it was luck. But now that the book is doing what it's doing and the feedback I'm getting is what it is, I am more steadfast in my commitment to evangelize the message and the principles. And I think out of that evolution has become probably a greater sense of empathy more than anything, because I empathize with those that are in environments where the principles are not going to be adopted. And that's a challenge I hear from kind of mid-level managers a lot is, man, Kyle, these are really fantastic. I think there is a place for them in my personal life. I can find a place for them on my team, but it's not going to go any farther than that, because I just know the type of people or to whom the specific person to whom I report, and I just know it won't be embraced. And that I empathize with that because I've been there as well and had to make some tough decisions to go elsewhere. But I understand the conundrum that places people in if they think they can see a better way, but it's not going to be embraced by those higher on the org chart. Is a really tough scenario to deal with. I get it. So I think empathy is probably an even greater kind of ongoing paradigm for me.
Oh, 100% to all of what you said. And I have been working with organizations where people are even waiting for those individuals on different hierarchy levels to go. Or once they go, once they get older, once they retire or they are being retired, it's going to get better. Yeah. And coming back to something you said early on, right? Time is basically too short to wait and, to be in misery at work. It's a shame to see that. And that's what I have true empathy with.
Yeah. I gave a talk recently to a small-ish company, about 100 people. There were two sessions. The founder was in the room for one of the sessions and was not for the second. The questions in the second were much more pointed, much more specific about the problems they're dealing with. And then it was obvious to me that there was kind of two groups. When he was in the room, different set of questions, different reaction to my words. It wasn't a lot more energy, a lot more excitement, enthusiasm about the content. One of the more senior leaders came up to me afterward and asked if I noticed it. And I said, yeah, I did kind of notice that. And I won't use his name, but they said, well, when he's not in the room, people are much more innovative and creative and they want to solve problems. When he's in the room, it's almost oppressive. But he's going to retire soon. We just don't know when. So the leaders of the company were aware that he's out in the next year or two, maybe even 3 years, and they're just biding time so they can really drive a big transformation once he's gone. And I thought to myself, he's the guy writing the check for me to be here. Yeah. Which is unfortunate. And had I known it was kind of that much of a divide, I probably wouldn't have taken the gig, because I don't want to be a check the box guy. Like, it made him feel good that he brought some author in to talk about these principles. But I'm not naive. I doubt a thing will change now that I'm gone or after I left. What
kind of advice or coaching would you offer to an individual who's approaching you and saying, did you notice the difference? And they were to say to you, what can we do to influence, to have an impact on this person?
Yeah, I keep it real. It's the likelihood of you changing this 100-person organization the way that you think it needs to change with the founder, in the day-to-day operations, who is not on board with those changes. It's not going to happen. So you can push, you can argue, you can persuade to the best of your ability. But if he or she are not going to carry that weight with you, I think it's a lot of wasted effort. So my advice is, it's usually twofold. First, are you in a position where you can go do something else, go somewhere else to a different company? And by that, be very transparent. I mean, can you afford to maybe take a pay cut?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, but, or I don't want to, I get it, man. You have commitments, we have bills, we have things we have to take care of. So if you can make this work and keep your head down, there's nothing wrong with that. You are costing yourself some fulfillment, and you're likely costing yourself a greater impact. But if you can muster the courage and have the wherewithal to maybe take one or two steps back to go 3 or 4 steps forward, it is almost always worth it. Now, you are trading some problems for problems. Not every organization, no organization is going to be perfect or have all their act together. Yeah. But I stumbled across this fact that we spend roughly 100,000 hours of our life on this planet working. The only thing that will do more than work is sleep. So my advice is, if you're convinced it's not going to change, and if it's coming from above, it's probably not. If you can put yourself in a different scenario that allows you to find greater impact and greater fulfillment, never forget that 100,000 hours, because that is the bulk of the energy and time that you spend on this planet, other than sleeping, is spent at work. And you owe it to yourself to find an environment that will allow you to be your best, leave with some impact, create a legacy for yourself, not just what you do, the X's and O's of the company, but 10 years later, 20 years later, did someone that reported to you, did they reach out? Did you have an impact on them? Did you create a legacy that is being played over and over and forward with how you led and how you encouraged and picked others up, inspired people? That's the impact that you're missing out on. And you can have that, but it may not be where you are.
Yeah. And I'm going to pick up on the word legacy, because legacy can sound big, right? To leave something amazing and incredible and huge. Legacy can mean different things to different people. For you, a legacy might be, I've built some amazing relationships, and I could support people in a certain field of expertise, and I was known for it. Legacy can be, you were the most empathetic person in that space, and you really saw and heard people. So I just want to highlight that to listeners, to take the pressure off the word legacy. It's important to define it for yourself.
Well, and you're absolutely right. It is a shame in my mind that we reserve that word for the Tom Brady's of the world, those with celebrity status, or people that, are in a different stratosphere in terms of income or their influence. Yeah. You, Kathleen, you have a legacy. I have a legacy. We have a choice on what that legacy looks like. And to say I'm going to reserve my energy and my mental gymnastics around creating a legacy outside of work, I think is silly. Because again, if we're going to spend 100,000 hours, the number one thing we'll do on this planet is work besides sleep. You should connect legacy with your work life. Specifically, those in a position of authority, with air quotes. I say your leadership legacy. They're two words that rarely get used together, but we should not reserve the word for people that are on a stage bigger than ours. You have a legacy right now. It's just a matter of it's a matter of your choice of living that legacy or creating that legacy in a way that you'd be proud for others to follow and replicate. And that's my goal, is to leave a leadership legacy, and that people will look back and say, I made them a better leader. And if I'm really lucky, I made them a better person in the same process, because it works the same for me as well.
Can you separate a better leader in your personal life and in your professional life?
Gosh, that's a brilliant question. The answer is no.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you know what I'm gonna amend a question or an answer that I gave earlier to one of your questions. How have I evolved as a leader? When I created the principles, released the book, those principles were contained and isolated specifically in my work life. And then I realized I was being a hypocrite. If I'm the guy evangelizing, we do the right thing, but I'm not doing right all the time, with some exceptions, I'm not perfect, I'm going to make mistakes. Then I felt as if it occurred to me I was being a hypocrite. So now, whether I'm in the gym, whether I'm at the grocery store, whether I'm in a conversation with my wife or friends, or regardless of who I'm with, those principles, they guide how I behave. And now my friends who never even were aware of the principles, they say them to me, which is kind of fun to hear.
Oh, brilliant. I looked at your merch and I thought, I need to buy some of them and hang them up around the house, and let's see what the impact of them is going to be on the whole family system.
I would be honored. Yeah.
From a funny note to a bit more of a serious note. So in your book, in your principles, you mention the word toxic from time to time, toxic environments, cultures. And from my point of view, toxicity, I hope I pronounced that correctly, has shifted a little bit. So I, for example, perceived toxic environments, and I worked in one or two, as organizations, cultures that lacked complete psychological safety, where I felt I could not be myself at all, say the right thing constantly, and the right thing was defined by certain people, and I could mention far more. Today, my perception has become a little bit more convoluted, and that is pretty much affected as well by the news and watching the news and seeing what's going on in the world. And sometimes it feels to me like it's not even an expectation anymore that leaders do the right thing. They can do the wrong thing and the wrongest of all things, and it's being accepted. And so therefore, I wonder, and that's a big question, how from your perspective, having these insights into American corporations as well, has the definition of toxic culture shifted? Has our perception of it shifted?
I can't help but separate politics from the rest of the world in my answer, because I think, especially in the U.S., as you and I chatted about, you can't say it's not toxic. You are tone deaf and blind if you watch 10 minutes of U.S. news in the world of in the U.S. for politics in the U.S., and you walk away from that thinking anything other than it's toxic, you are so deeply entrenched in your political affiliation, you're missing it. And I say that as someone who's registered as an independent. In our world, that means I'm neither Democrat or Republican. Mm-hmm. And it's impossible for me to set, because to me, the level of toxicity in that world has reached a plateau that we've never seen. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I agree that it's any better or worse in the workplace. Mm-hmm. There are a number of other characteristics that I think are increasingly concerning, but the level of toxicity up or down, I don't know that I've seen it go one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean to cop out. Politics it's a separate animal for me. In the workplace, it feels as if we'll always have bad actors. And you made a comment earlier about the toxicity being kind of identified with the culture at large of an organization. But I see it a little bit differently. There are really healthy organizations in the world that have toxic pockets, mm-hmm. Or toxic leaders, or even toxic team members. And of course, there are organizations that are on the macro toxic as well. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that I see it any more or less than I did when I got into this world, 2-3 dozen years ago.
Yeah. Now,
what do you think? Do you think it's worse in the workplace?
It has. I think it has. The workplace has become more challenging to deal with it. Now, when have I been in the workplace, right? From the year 2000 until the year 2020 that I worked in organizations. So I'm pretty sure if we go back to the 60s, 70s, we could talk about something completely different, a completely different definition of toxicity. But what I'm noticing being based in Europe, yes, obviously we keep a close eye on the US and the US leadership, but we have Russia, we have the Ukraine, we have the power of right-wing parties in many, many European countries. So, there's a lot cooking, and it is frightening from time to time. And what I am noticing in my day-to-day work is that there are many leaders who want to role model doing the right thing and standing up for what they believe in, but they find themselves in a very challenging position because it's either not wanted, or we need to keep our head down, or, some people who convey with beliefs that we see in around Europe are in a position of power. So psychological safety is almost not existent. So that is something we notice. And there's more and more of a polarization. So even in organization, you notice it's us against them. So you get you get caught up in these battles instead of focusing on, so how can we make this a better workplace and work together and collaborate? And that's hard.
It is hard. But as the tension, at least in the US, and this might be a tough question for you to answer, but as the tension and energy and temperature of the U.S. political kind of landscape has done what it's done, go up, have you seen that play a role in the workplace in Europe, or you are seeing it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a shame.
Slowly but surely coming over. Yeah. I think we could talk about loads of different topics, from D&I initiatives. You and I spoke about that briefly in our pre-call, to how you show up as a leader, how you suddenly ask everybody to come back to the office, making jokes about, parental leave for dads, for example. Suddenly we go back into these, what I would call very traditional views on how we have to show up in our roles as a woman, as a man, and anything in between. And that's a real shame.
As you said that, Kathleen, it occurs to me that when we see political leaders behaving in ways that we know are inappropriate for a leader, and that can include attacking someone else, attacking their appearance, even as silly as that sounds, as grade school as that sounds, I can't help but think ultimately that has to play in how a leader, especially leaders with greater spheres of influence, bigger teams, massive organizations, big P&Ls, they're responsible for a lot of things. I can't imagine how that can't, especially if you're entrenched in that side of the political spectrum, how that does not come with you to the workplace and you lead somewhat similarly, or at least with components of what you've witnessed. Because if the most powerful man in the free world is doing this nonsense, then gosh, my little company over here, when I'm the 10,000 people I'm leading, surely I can get away with behaving the same way. So I'm not naive enough to think there's no impact, and certainly could not grow over time. But I put it this way: in many keynotes, one of the first things I say when I get on stage is, "Hey, you guys, we're going to be together for about an hour and a half or so. I'd like to challenge you to let all the noise go, all the nonsense that you heard on the drive in, what you read on whatever social media feed you were on. Let's get all of that out of our brains right now, because we're here today and we're here to focus on something that's going to try to make this world a better place, just kind of one team at a time, one company at a time, and go bigger." So with that, I just shared that because I'm not naive to the impact, or about the impact that the noise that's going on around the world right now, how it impacts every single one of us in different ways. I haven't seen it have an impact up or down in terms of the culture, but I am aware that it is occupying people's mental space, which is taking away from their ability to do really great inside the workplace.
You're spot on with that. So what's required of leaders from your perspective, and also given your experience in working with different leadership teams and organizations?
Well, I mean, it really boils down to your intention. So if I'm in a role that I'm leading, one person to 10,000, it doesn't matter. If I'm in a position that requires me to lead others, is it my intention to be a boss, or is it my intention to be a leader? And the difference is obvious, but for me, there's kind of, in this context, there's really, really one kind of strong element that I'm referring to. When I sign up to be a boss, it's because I get to tell people what to do. I'm going to make more money. They think there's going to be less stress on them because they're no longer the doer. They can tell the doers what to do. And that will work. It can work for a finite period of time. I don't think it's sustainable. On the other side is that leader that says, yeah, I'm going to make more money. I'm able to tell people what to do, but I'm in this role because I want to have an impact. I want to add value. I want to contribute to something. I want to create a legacy. And that you or I don't think anybody can force one paradigm or the other on somebody. It's my hope, though, that the bosses who see me speak, read the book, watch our podcast, watch your podcast, listen to your show, they start to recognize I am shortchanging myself by approaching this as a boss. The problem with making that transition that nobody wants to talk about is that it's harder. You must work harder. You have to dedicate more time and energy to those around you than you probably ever have, and maybe than you're more comfortable doing. On the other side, but it's like everything else in life. If I burn those calories and put those reps in, I will see things that I didn't see if I didn't burn those calories and put those reps in. So my point is, it's my hope that with conversations like this and other work that folks like you and I do, there's a recognition that, yeah, I can do this boss thing, or I can really have an impact and be the leader I never had. Help transform people from bosses to leaders, organizations from places that nobody wants to be to thriving, high-functioning organizations. So it's intention and choice, and I say that with a little bit of confidence because I intended, and it was my choice, to be a really great boss for a lot of years, but it left me incredibly apathetic. And the transition for me is to try to invest not to try, but to make sure I invest my energy in those around me, not the KPIs. But if I invest the energy and care to those around me, the KPIs will take care of themselves. And oh, by the way, I've had these connections and bonds with people that theoretically will last well beyond my tenure in any role. So it's about a choice. We just have to make a choice. And if you're courageous enough to make that choice, I'm here to tell you, and I think you would agree, the impact and fulfillment you find dwarfs anything that you would have seen if you didn't make that choice.
Oh, and you use the word fulfilling quite frequently. And I think it's the most fulfilling thing you can do. When you notice you really supported somebody, you were there, you had this impact. Oh, it's heartwarming. And there is this phrase in the service industry that offer as much value as possible, the money will come. But don't just focus on the money side. Without offering any value, without having this impact, that doesn't work. It works the other way around.
It's everything we do in life is about value. Whether we don't quantify the value we bring to our love lives or our friendships, but we are bringing value, or we wouldn't be in it, or we're getting value, or we wouldn't be in it. Our work life and our situation as a leader or a person on a team is no different. We want to add value. We want to be valued. And we want to connect the value of the work that we do to the ultimate consumer, the person that buys or consumes the product or service that we played a role in delivering. I think it's a human element that's within all of us. We want to add value and be valued.
And something else you mentioned earlier on was around, take one step basically, or one team at the time, or one organization at the time. And I am 100% with you on that. Start smallish and be consistent. Who can you have an impact on? Where can you add value? And then also trust in the other people that they may feel inspired by you role modeling certain behaviors, and then they start to show these kind of behaviors using this kind of language with other people around them. And that's how change spreads. Momentum. So I think we also got to take the pressure away from change is a big thing and it's got to start at the top and then it's going to take forever. It's about what you mentioned, intention. I'm noticing I'm repeating everything you said. Intention, really focusing on how can you show up and what is the value you can add. So yeah.
Well said. Well said.
Well, thank you. Well said to you. I feel like I interrupted you.
No, not at all. I'm just, we're on a topic, this whole line of conversation is really important. And I think it matters. Words matter. And just like we've all been associated, we've all worked in an environment where there's at least one team member who's always sour about something. They're making us do this, or now we have to do that, or, my schedule, whatever the case is, there's always something to complain about, and that can spread. We've seen it. We've seen how that, it's like a cancer and it can run through a team and then more broadly through an organization. The beautiful thing about that is so can positivity. Just like you said, if one person starts small-ish and, let's pretend there are in a big company, there are 5 teams that all do the exact same thing. There's 5 supervisors and let's say there are 10 people on each team. If one of those 5 supervisors are leading in a way that creates a magnetism or even an attraction to be, what are they doing over there? The results are good, but the people seem happier. Like their attendance is better. Their attrition is lower. That can create momentum to where the other 4 teams might have people that want to get off that team and join this 5th team because it's a different environment. So I don't subscribe to this notion that, if the whole organization is, whether or not an entire organization is toxic, certainly the size of the company has a lot to do with it, right? If you're in a 50,000 person organization, you can say the organization's toxic, but certainly there are pockets of high functioning folks and vice versa. If we say it's a high functioning company, there's probably pockets of toxicity. But regardless of which end of the spectrum you sit, you still have an opportunity to create momentum in your little way, whether it's a team of 2 or a team of 20,000, doesn't matter to me. You have an opportunity. Now, if you want to drive bigger change, like we talked about a moment ago, outside your circle, that gets tougher and you might hit a wall at some point, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't try.
Fully agree. Now I'm going to come back full circle to your book and to a potential new opportunity. You said that you were in talks with a big publishing house, and there may be another book in the works. Now, knowing you the way I know you, it's not like we are close buddies, but I've had the chance to get to know you a little bit. I'm like, man, that took some balls to attract, to show this magnetism you were just talking about, to, get a big publishing house on board and to make them listen to you and pitch. Now, I'm connecting that again to the imposter as well. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, overcoming this imposter. Perhaps you may not have had it in this moment to say, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to pitch with them. I'm going to go big because I really want to learn from you here.
Well, so that's just maybe some context about the process, because it was new to me. When the gentleman from the publishing house reached out, the process is as follows. It's like, we want you on our team for your next book, but we need to learn more about that book. So have you given some thought? What's the book going to be about? And we went back and forth on that. He said, okay, I'm going to send you this document. I need you to fill out. It's basically a proposal form where you fill out what the book's about, why you're the right person for the book. It's really kind of an exhaustive. I spent way more time on it than I think I probably should have. You send that document back, and then it goes to their editorial board, and then they make a decision if they want to move forward or not. And in between that first outreach and the submission of that proposal is when you have the time to kind of like get your shit together. What do you want to pitch? What do you want to propose? Why, how do you know that you are the right person for this book and that you can promote it in a way that brings value to both the company, the publisher, and yourself? And I have to say, to the imposter syndrome conversation, when the outreach came, I wasn't sure it wasn't spam at first. The book's been out for almost 3 years and I've never gotten an outreach like this. So I Googled the guy's name. Okay, this looks legit. And then I Googled even deeper because I was still struggling with, is this real? Is this something that really could come to fruition?
Yeah.
So before I sent that proposal back, I put together what I think is a really compelling offer that's valuable to them, value to me, and most importantly, allows the message to get kind of spread on a much wider basis because they have marketing reach that I don't have. But there was a fair amount of imposter syndrome while I was writing this proposal because I wasn't at first quite sure if it was even a legitimate thing. And I didn't want to get too excited. And this guy comes back and says, nah, it's not happening. But I also, back to the comment I made about the last thought I have when I go on stage, it's like, this is not about me. It's about getting this message out. And I'm going to swing as hard and as far for the fences as I can if I have this opportunity in front of me. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It won't be because I wasn't me or I tried to be something I wasn't. It's who I am. It's what I want to, it's the message I want to spread. I just need your help to get it spread much more widely. Maybe for lack of a better way of saying it. The imposter syndrome was real, but this is a time that I had to kick that guy to the curb and not even listen to him and go with what I know and the value that I think this could bring.
Yeah. That was one of these moments that you described earlier on with your friend who's a successful baseball defender, where you say, you really have to believe in your successes, in your achievements. I would have sat there, like I would have done exactly the same, Googling it, see if it's legit and thinking, nah, it can't be. And then I would be talking myself out of it because this is far too big and this is not me yet because I'm the small person. And that's what would have happened. So I really admire the steps you took, the time you invested. I think this is one of those moments where you probably have to invest time and think and really, really, decide what you're going to send through and how you're going to pitch yourself and your idea.
Yeah. We have these moments in our life that we make out to be really, really big pivots. And if it goes one way, there's this pot of gold, not literally, and not even from a financial perspective, but rewards that you're chasing. If you go the other way, I blew it, it's not going to happen. I used to subscribe to that kind of thinking, but now it's like, and I mean this so sincerely, and it kind of borders into a spiritual or maybe even a religious place, is I believe everything happens for a reason. I believe if you put yourself in a position, good things can happen. It may not be like if this deal doesn't go through and it's or they send me a contract that is not in my best interest, it won't happen. But it doesn't mean it won't happen at all. So I'm convinced now that this has happened, I'm convinced that this book is going to be in brick and mortar shops, airport bookstores. It's going to be around the world at some point. I mean, it's already available wherever books are sold online, but having a physical presence is a different layer or different level. So I'm convinced all of this is going to happen. It's just a matter of when or if, not if, but when. And my point about going down this path, Kathleen, is as I was putting this proposal together, I put my level best into it, my authentic self. I swung as hard as I could. And if it doesn't work, okay, it'll happen. And I believe that. I won't lose a moment of sleep over it.
Are you sure?
100%.
Wow.
Will I be disappointed? Absolutely. But it's not not happening because of something I did or didn't do. I've done everything I can do at this point. I can't rewrite the book. I can't have a different marketing approach for the last 3 years. I am where I am. It sold what it sold. It is what it is. I am who I am. And it's kind of like, if you want to do business together, I would love to, under the right conditions. If not, somebody will. And it's just a matter of time.
I think the world is ready for you. Step out of the US, spread the word on all the other continents that are remaining and could do with a bit of begin with we.
You're very kind for saying that. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean it. Seriously.
I know you wouldn't say it if you didn't.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. I would be very diplomatic. Far more diplomatic.
I probably wouldn't be here for round 2 if you didn't mean that.
That's very, very true. And if you include the episode we kind of started to record and then said, let's do it again, then it would be round 3 now.
Have you ever talked about that on your show since then? Or is it okay to talk about that now?
Oh, it's totally okay to talk about it.
Can I tell the story?
Yeah. So, you tell the story, yeah.
Yeah, and you jump in or correct if I get it wrong. So my recollection is we connected somehow. This is before the first podcast, would have been mid to early 2022. We did the podcast. It's obviously not live, and we got to the end of the recording, and I just felt off. I felt like I didn't add the value for you, and I didn't sell myself in a way that was effective. With 3 years behind me, the selling myself part was a stupid thing to try to quantify. But we got to the end, and I was like, Kathleen, I didn't know you. You didn't really know me, but I felt like we collectively could do better. But I felt as if I needed to tee that up, because here you are. You've done at that point multiple, I don't even know how many, but a lot of episodes. I had done maybe, I don't know, less than 10 or so at the time, and I was just getting into this world. And I was, for right, wrong, or indifferent, I was comfortable enough with you to say, dude, I think we can do better. And by we, I meant me. And you were gracious enough, and we recorded another one, and hopefully you deleted the deleted folder after the first run of our conversation. Well, how do you remember it? Is that did I get it right?
You did get it right. And I remember there was a trigger moment. As my listeners will know, I love to go deep, and I love to go beyond the surface. And that also includes personal stories. And I remember asking you, I think about your father. Or mother, yes.
Yep, I remember.
Yes.
Yep.
And that was the moment of, I triggered something. And that is for me absolutely okay. I had a few guests who said, I didn't realize we go there, but that actually was cathartic, right? To talk about it. But there was this moment of, okay, something shifted. But the thing is, I believe, and you can call it fluffy or spiritual as well. I am a very spiritual person. I believe in energy, and that the energy connects pretty quickly. And that was the sense I got there. I felt frazzled in my words and my language, and I just felt like, the energy we had in the pre-talk wasn't quite there. Yeah. And it was a bit of, what's going on? And I started to doubt myself, and my imposter became quite noisy inside of my head. And when you called it out afterwards, I was like, I had a sense of relief. Not because I thought you were off, but it was like, I wasn't at my best either. It was embarrassing. That was the word I used for myself.
Really?
And then we did that re-recording, and things flew. It was just cool.
I do remember at the end of the first one, we went back and forth like, are you sure? Are you sure? Like we didn't know each other well enough to be like, dude, we got to do that again. I owe you better than that. Are you sure? I can if you can. Are you sure? We went back and forth, and I'm so glad we did, because I think that exposed a level of, at least for me, I won't speak for you, a level of vulnerability that I'm proud of, not just in that moment, but in my life in general. Had I disconnected and let it roll, or had you said, Kyle, it is what it is, we're moving forward, I would have been fine with that. But being that vulnerable to say, I can do better, it's who I am. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time, though, because the standards I set for myself are sometimes impossible to achieve. But I do remember it with great fondness how you were so accommodating and cordial with this guy that didn't know what the hell he was doing on one of his first podcasts. And here we are 3 years later. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's not how I perceived it at all.
Really?
At all.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Totally. So it was absolutely cool. And again, it built another opportunity for connection, and that I value very much. And I was meaning to ask you for the last hour or so.
Sure.
So you talk about vulnerability, right? You talk about authenticity, and you show up as your authentic self. And with that publishing house story, you just highlighted how authenticity plays out for you. Now, I do wonder as to whether in the recent days, weeks, perhaps year, you did have a situation where this sense of authenticity, of vulnerability, stretched you a little bit out of your comfort zone. You felt like, ooh, I'm not sure if I can be quite as vulnerable or as open.
No, I can't think of a scenario. As a matter of fact, my wife gives me a hard time. So we live in a high rise, and it's not uncommon to jump out of the car in the garage and walk to the elevator, and we'll see people and, say hello. She gives me a hard time because I never just say hello. It's usually like when someone says, hey, how's it going? I'll genuinely answer it. They don't care. They don't want to know, but it's like, hey, we're building a home right now. It's like, hey, how's the house coming? Well, 10 minutes later, my wife has left. I'm still standing there talking. So I'm the guy that if I'm going to make a mistake, or I usually overshare. So nothing comes to mind where I'm like, yeah, I'm in a different setting. I can't be me. Usually it's when in the settings where I would usually, or one would usually question if they can be their authentic selves, is the time that I usually go even further. Maybe it's a defense mechanism, but that's just how I handle it.
I used to date somebody ages ago who was complaining about me that I always get into conversations wherever we are, like at the checkout in a bookstore or whatnot, and I have a chat. And my husband now is not complaining about me. I think as an introvert, he quite likes it. But he keeps saying, people always tell you the whole life story when you meet them. It's unbelievable. I'm just like, I'm just being interested in them.
I think it's a gift, man. That's something to be proud of.
Yeah,
someone feels comfortable enough to start telling you all their things going on in their world. I think it can suck if you got somewhere to be.
I tell you, I have to extend my dentist and hygienist timings now because I have to calculate in half an hour of getting an update on the life of the dentist first.
That's awesome. Hey, you want to be that person, or the one that nobody feels as if they can talk to you about anything, even the weather, right?
No. And it's so important, I think, in our work that we build and form connections pretty quickly, but to use the word again, authentic connections.
Don't fake it.
Yep. No. Yep. And it's such a fast-paced environment we often live in. So taking these there's the word again, these intentional moments to be and to have human experiences, that's something I want to role model, to my kid as well, that it is important. We don't just sit in front of our laptops and phones. We have actual connections.
So true. I just, I feel like, why wait to tell someone something that you think about them that might add value for them, lift them up, make them feel better? I don't know. I think maybe it's rooted in back to the conversation from our very, very first podcast, losing my mother at a young age. She was 63 when she passed, which is not, not old, but it's certainly not young. And I don't know that it was a purposeful pivot for me, but if I care about you, I tell you. I literally say, I care about you. If I appreciate you, I'll tell you, I appreciate you. And maybe that's from, I just thought about this recently, actually. Maybe that's from me not getting everything out before she passed in a way that made me feel as if I had kind of checked all those boxes and kind of set, it wasn't a sudden thing. She passed the cancer. And I think in hindsight, I probably saved words that I shouldn't have saved. Whether that is the origin of my approach to this stuff or not, I am certainly not void of words now for in terms of affection or how I feel towards or about someone. Why would you be? Why would you be? If you appreciate someone, why wouldn't you just tell them that? You're going to wait till they're gone to tell at the eulogy? No, tell them now. That's how I go about it.
Yeah, 100%. I really, really love that. And it applies to every part of our life, right? This was just a really human story from your personal life, and it's a heartfelt story as well. And therefore, I find it hard to move into the workspace, and yet I'm going to do it. Because how often, and I experience it in German culture, which is my home culture quite often, we don't say we appreciate you. There's even a saying in the south of Germany, right, that says, I don't know how to translate that probably, but the gist of it is basically, if you don't moan, that's enough of a praise. And it's like, it's mind-blowing in the sense of why would you have this attitude even when the one thing we really want is to be seen and heard and valued? Well, why?
Yeah. Wow. What a shame.
Right? Mm-hmm. So I think there are so many moments when you can give an authentic, a genuine praise. So let's do it, and it will motivate and engage people so much.
Why would you not? I can't find a good argument for not. Mm-mm. I think in the workplace, there is a bit of bosses feel as if they have to keep themselves on a different platform, kind of in an elevated way, and I can't be relatable. I can't show my real self because then that's weakness, and then I lose my authority, which is also nonsense. Mm-hmm. But I can understand it. I don't agree with it, but I can understand it. Outside of the workplace, I just don't understand it.
No,
I never will.
No, I don't understand it either, and there's no need for it at all.
Right.
So I have one more question for you that might be a challenging one, maybe not. Let's see. But as you highlighted, you are evolving as a leader, and I hope everybody is evolving as a leader. Now, what is still a messy bit in your leadership where you say to yourself, I haven't quite figured it out yet?
So the 10th principle, the 10th we of the 10 we's is we obsess over details. Mm-hmm. I'm not good at that at all. Recently, my wife and I she went with me on a business trip, and we went to get on a plane to come back home, and I booked the flight for the wrong day. We're at the airport, and I booked the flight for the following day. I'm just not super connected with the details at a level that I would be proud to share. So it's something that I've always struggled with, and I got away with it for a long time in big corporate America because I had big teams and assistants and all this other nonsense. But now, in the small little company that I run now, it's not like that. So that's always a challenge for me, is getting close enough to the details where I don't make stupid mistakes like booking the wrong flight.
And yet I wonder if that's simply not your strength.
I think that's right. I agree. I'm not good at it. Could I get better at it? Yeah, I probably could. But I haven't taken the time or energy to do so because I'm weighing the input versus the output. Is it like, should I get better at documenting things? Yeah, I absolutely should. Is it going to have a demonstrable impact or effect on the impact that I'm having? I don't think so. Is it going to burn me from time to time? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But it's an absolute blind spot weakness for me, but I know of it. So I think that's helpful. And I try to surround myself with people like a very understanding wife who will say, no, Kyle, it's today. Or, we have a big acrylic sign in our kitchen that she leaves notes for me, because otherwise I'll forget that we've got to go to, this cocktail party this Friday or something. It's just, I don't think that way. And I don't know. It's a weakness for sure.
Yeah. And it's great that you mentioned input versus output, right? Time and energy. And I think that's the only principle I thought about the most, because I'm not detail orientated, but I'm also interested in strengths and in flaws, and how much time should we invest in our flaws, whereby in the meantime we could really expand our strengths and really utilize them for the better, while getting some help to help us with our weaknesses.
Yeah.
Right. So if you run a small company, are there people who keep an eye on the details and who can support to make sure you are not missing out on that? So I think that is also an important thought. How much detail orientated do you have to be if that's simply not your strength?
Yeah. I mean, I believe identifying your strengths and weaknesses, capitalizing on those strengths, not resting that you are where you are, but always trying to get better at those strengths, recognizing the weaknesses and dealing with them in a way that doesn't cripple you.
Yeah.
And that means you might just be okay with that weakness being what it is. And I might stumble and stub my toe every now and then because of it, but I'm not going to go take a detail oriented type class, right? I'm not going to go learn how, because to me, the level of input required does not have a big enough effect on the output.
Yeah.
So I'd rather spend that time addressing or working on my strengths, getting better at those things, or a weakness that I know will have a bigger impact than my lack of orientation to details.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, and I'm very glad you highlighted that. Hey, before we come to an end and we let you go, you mentioned spirituality earlier on. You mentioned that you believe everything happens for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I personally believe is a very, very helpful mindset to have, at least in my personal world. Do you practice any certain habits, spirituality that help you remain in that mindset and those kind of beliefs?
I would practice, yes, but then I take another approach that I don't know that I would call a practice that I think kind of keeps me connected. The practice part is meditation for me, which is something I try to do. I try every day. I'm not perfect at it. I'll probably get 3, 4, maybe 5 days. And that allows me to kind of reset. Other practices are for me fitness. So I like to sweat. As weird as that might sound, but it is a kind of a cathartic thing for me. I leave kind of spent, depending on what I was doing, but also energized about the other stuff I got to get after in that same day, because now I have a level of energy that wasn't there before the workout.
Yeah.
But the other thing is I consider myself an observer of people, an observer of things. And if you are in any way like me, in that you think that, things happen for a reason and the universe takes care of people that do good, not without exception. I don't mean to imply that. There are really great people that have really bad things happen to them. I don't imply that. But I have reached this point where I'm so convinced that all things happen for a reason, because I have observed different things in my life come to fruition. Like I would never be in the situation that I'm in with a really, really great marriage had I not gone through a divorce. I'm convinced of that. I wouldn't be the husband that I am to my wife if I didn't go through some pretty bad times as a husband in a previous relationship. My business is the same, right? I am more prepared to take on things because of the things I've experienced in the past. And I just believe if we observe good, bad, and indifferent outcomes and activities throughout our life, when we're confronted with similar ones, we've learned, and now we're in a position that we've observed what goes well with this path and what doesn't go well, which informs us how to make those decisions. And that's when those things start to come together and appear to be connected. I'm not a religious person. I don't subscribe to any specific denomination. I believe in a higher power, and I believe that something or someone is watching me. Could be my mother. But I do believe that there's something else out there for me, that I've got to do what I think is the right thing, be the best person I can be. And those coincidences and things happening, good things will happen. There's this expression in the golf world, when you hit a bad shot and it like bounces off of a rock, but lands in a place you wanted it to land. There's this expression we say, living right. You're living right. You're living right. And the golf gods just paid you back by dropping that ball where you intended it to go. And I think it's the same thing throughout our personal lives. If you're living right, the odds of good things happening to you are better.
Yeah. And you use the word observe. That is so important. So you've got to give yourself the space to actually notice and do the observation, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And with all of the scrolling going on and all the nonsense in the world around us, very few of us, I shouldn't say very few of us, that sounds elitist. I don't mean it to be. It's not often that we collectively take that time to think about what's happening in our lives, in our world. We're on this hamster wheel, and we don't take time to step off of it and say, This didn't go the way I wanted. What did I learn from it? Okay, I'll be better for that going forward. This went really well. What did I do that contributed to that going really well? How do I manifest that into this next scenario?
Yeah.
But you don't do that without taking that time and observing the things around you.
Yeah. And Kyle, you bring up so many reflections and memories today in me, because I remember years and years ago when I experienced tough times, challenging times, right? You mentioned the example of a bad relationship, for example, or a work situation that wasn't optimal. It was the end of the world. And I was panicking and I was an emotional wreck, you could call me, right? Nowadays, and I'd say maybe for the last 5-7 years or so, there's a completely different approach. It feels empowered. So when I am in a moment of, doesn't quite feel good, right? That feels tough. And you start to doubt yourself, whatever's going on. I can very quickly switch to who I'm curious to see how I'm coming out of this, what's going to happen, how I have evolved. There's a real sense of freedom, of confidence, of belief. And I'm not a religious person either, but there's an inner trust, maybe to summarize it.
Well said. I agree with that. Yeah, there's an inner trust. We could spend all day whining about this thing that's happening to us or this adversity, or we could say, okay, it sucks. Granted, it sucks. Now let's go. Let's go. What are we going to do about this? Am I the person that I claim to be, that I can fight through adversity? I can learn from these things. And when you create that expectation of yourself, when that scenario approaches, it's a gut check. Am I full of shit or am I really that person? And I try not to be full of shit. So I immediately or very quickly pivot to solutions.
Yeah. And with these words, let's move forward, look into the future. So apart from what I'm sure is going to be the second book, what else is coming our way?
It's all on everything is still kind of centered on promoting Begin With We. It looks like I might have to change my calendar over the next several months to start working on this book if that comes to fruition, fingers crossed. But, my mission is still the same. My purpose is still the same. And it's spreading this message, a principle-based leadership, a principle-based lifestyle, and trying to help people get out of their own way, whether it be their work life or personal life.
Yeah. And it's time for you to come to Europe and to spread the word.
Yeah, I'd love that.
I say that every time.
It'll happen.
It will.
It's going to happen. Yep, it's going to happen. For sure.
So, Kyle, for everybody who hasn't listened to your first podcast with me yet, and I'm going to say yet because you've got to listen to that too, where can people find you?
I'm basically every social media platform at Kyle McDowell Inc. My website is kylemcdowellinc.com. And we've talked about it a number of times, but the book is Begin With We. It's available wherever books are sold. It seems like Amazon typically has the best price and the quickest shipping, but it's wherever books are sold.
Fabulous. So therefore, I'm going to give the audience, our listeners, a few key tasks today. And that is listen to podcast 1 with Kyle. Second, listen to this podcast, get the book, and let us know what you thought about it. What did you take away from it? What was the most impactful principle for you? And what's one small step that you indeed can take? Loads of tasks for you today. We're going to share all of them in the show notes as well. And we do the same with the contact details of Kyle. And for now, I'm going to say, hey, Kyle, I have a feeling it's not going to be the last episode that we recorded together. Thank you so much for being such a fabulous guest and for visiting us again.
Hey, dude, I'll look forward to episode 3, you and I.
Yes, dude. All right. That's what we're going to do. Take good care. Take good care, everybody out there. Have a wonderful remaining week. Bye-bye. Well, thank you so much for listening to the Legendary Leaders podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, then remember to subscribe to the show either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or my website, which is the go-to platform, CathleenO'Sullivan.com. I would also love to hear from you to discover what topics you'd like to hear more about, what topics really resonated with you, and how you are enjoying the show in general. So please do leave your review on Apple Podcasts as well. It would mean the world to us. Thank you so much, and speak to you again next time. Take good care of yourself. Bye-bye.